so once you select a particular framework or methodology that you want to drive it, you have the list of uh, work items or work packages across different stream in terms of how you want to drive it. So you basically see the different activities that you can perform. So there's life to each of these things, right? You can view this item, you can drive it. There are a few things that are automated as part of it, the different stakeholders that are involved in terms of driving it. The best part is each of these work items has something called a knowledge base. And that's what I mentioned earlier, that when you move from, I mean, people keep moving, right? So people keep moving, and that's life all about. So you want to ensure that the knowledge is retained and it's codified and stays, and that's what we call as S/4HANA engine, where we have the complete components of it scans through the World Wide Web, brings up the articles, SAP notes relevant to that particular task, links, and things like that, right? So how do you drive it? You can maintain the wiki notes and things like that. Now, since it's made specific for SAP, any issues that you encounter as part of this projects, that can be handled, that can be moved on to the next project, that learnings are being recorded, and you can use it for the next set of teams that would work. So you can just copy it and ensure you use it for the next set of projects. So knowledge is retained, basically. That's the whole idea. And it's here we have the Activate methodology as the central framework, but if you want to have your own framework of how you want to drive it, even that is possible. You can manage the complete scope of the project. You can have a risk register, and the risk register is not a manual one. In case we have some smart alerts based on our engine, it keeps giving and logging in, and then keeps assigning it to the different users. You can have the complete project structure here and the hierarchy as well. You can have the complete files. So you have files can be integrated with the SharePoint portal. You can have communication with the different users where it provides the list of consultants working, or the customer side. You can send communication. If you have a communication tool like Teams or Slack, then you can keep sending messages there on how your project is being driven. And of course, these are analytics in terms of how the project is happening, and the different consultants that are being utilized, the work item tracker. All this is available as dashboards. Of course, these are things that's mandatory for any project to be driven. I also, the other thing that it has is, if you're still stuck with the old way of doing projects, which you still have to, whatever we showed was the way we have reimagined the project. But if you still want to drive it using a Gantt chart, and want to drive it with a set of consultants here, even that is possible, and that gets integrated with the list of tasks and issues and test cases. So you can drive it from here itself in terms of changing it and things like that. So that's also possible. So you could I think this is frozen for the time being, but you can track your milestones. You have a workbook view if you want to have an Excel kind of a thing to drive your project plans. So once you're involved in a project, how do you drive a complete? I'm sure sign off is something that everyone is aware of. If you've been in the SAP world, which is nothing but a workflow or a complete sign off in terms of how we want to drive each phases, because it's very important that we have a sign off at different phases with a Q gate. So whatever I showed you in the phase kernel earlier in terms of driving different phases, how do you link it to a sign off and eventually to a milestone? That's completely managed here. So you could take up any process and subject it to a complete workflow process in terms of approval, rejection. So there is a complete digital footprint of how you drive an SAP project, and that helps you to drive it in a more controlled way. You can drive any kind of so let me take up a particular, maybe I'll take this one. So you have a complete workflow engine that's built here. Maybe it's a wrong one. Let me get something which is complex. Okay. Right. You can keep adding more child wizards, and there is a document workflow. There is an approval reject that you can do. There is different levels, and you can keep creating sign off and keep linking it to the different tasks in the phase kernel, or it can be linked to the process, so that you have everyone accountable, responsible in terms of how you drive it, right? So you don't find it anywhere. You don't find these kind of sign-offs or workflows for different deliverables that you have to do in a project, right? So yeah, so that's how extensive it can be done in terms of driving your project, because again, been in SAP world for a long time, you understand that there's lots of communication that happens, but then you have to have some rigid way of driving it, some precision in terms of how you deliver the business transformation, where you have all the stakeholders. So when you drive a project, and when you're done with the configuration and the solution design document, how do you have a complete sign off? And before you go live, you have a complete view of how the projects are moving, and you see which is active, which has been completely approved. So this is an example of business case document sign off. The 3 completed, 4 active, and 2 new, basically the complete wizard of how things would look like. So if you have to if you want to imagine the finance department, for example, and how you wanted to involve all the subject matter experts in terms of driving it, right? So that's what this complete thing does in terms of having all the stakeholders involved, and how you can have different levels. It could be, it could be for a task, it could be for an issue, it could be for test cases, it could be for any work item that you want to define, and ensure you have a complete buy-in of all the stakeholders. And the whole of this product has a complete auto documentation involved, where you can document, drive it for different sign-offs and things like that, right? So that's the whole thing, and of course it's logged and it's all available at one place. The idea is to capture all the digital moments, right? So that's how you bring in the cadence, control, and governance of driving a project.